The summer sun was beating down on the busy streets of Atlanta when Jasmine Taylor rushed out of her office building for her lunch break. At 32 years old, she had already made a name for herself at Anderson Marketing as one of their top executives. Her dark skin glowed with a thin sheen of sweat as she walked quickly down Peachtree Street, her natural curls bouncing with each step. It was Thursday, and like every Thursday, she was headed to her favorite cafe, Sweet Bean Corner. The cafe was always packed during lunch hour, but their chicken Caesar salad was worth fighting the crowd for. As she approached the entrance, she noticed a man in a wheelchair struggling with the heavy glass door. Without hesitation, Jasmine stepped forward. "Let me help you with that," he said, reaching for the door handle. As she pulled it open, the man looked up at her with the warmest brown eyes she had ever seen. "Thank you," he said with a genuine smile that made his whole face light up. "These doors can be tricky sometimes." His name was Marcus Bennett, as she would soon learn. He was wearing a crisp blue button-down shirt and dark slacks, with a laptop bag hanging from the back of his wheelchair. There was something about his presence that made Jasmine pause. Maybe it was his confident posture or the intelligent spark in his eyes. The cafe was indeed packed, with barely any space to move between tables. Jasmine noticed Marcus scanning the crowded room with a slight frown. Without thinking, she spoke up. "Would you like to share my table? I always grab the corner one by the window. It's more spacious." Marcus looked surprised but pleased. "That would be great, actually. If you don't mind?" "Not at all," Jasmine replied, leading the way to her usual spot. As they settled in, what was meant to be a simple act of kindness turned into a 2-hour conversation. Jasmine learned that Marcus was a software developer who had lost the use of his legs in a childhood accident when he was 12. But rather than let it define him, he had channeled his energy into technology and education. "I figured if I couldn't run around physically, I'd make my mind run marathons instead," he joked, making Jasmine laugh. They talked about everything: their jobs, their families, their dreams. Marcus told her about growing up in Chicago with 3 sisters who never treated him differently because of his disability. Jasmine shared stories about her tight-knit family in Atlanta and her journey to becoming a marketing executive. "My mama always said, 'Baby girl, the only ceiling above you is the one you build yourself,'" Jasmine said, smiling at the memory. Time flew by, and Jasmine was shocked when she checked her phone to see several missed calls from her office. She was an hour late returning from lunch, something that had never happened in her 5 years at the company. "Oh my goodness, I need to get back," she said, gathering her things quickly. Marcus looked equally surprised by the time. "I can't believe we talked for so long," he said, then added with a touch of nervousness, "Would it be okay if I got your number? Maybe we could do this again sometime?" Jasmine felt her heart skip a beat. She hadn't dated anyone in over a year, focusing instead on her career. But there was something special about Marcus, something that made her want to know more. They exchanged numbers, and as Jasmine hurried back to her office, she couldn't wipe the smile off her face. Her colleague Sandra noticed immediately when she walked in. "Girl, where have you been? And what's got you grinning like that?" Sandra asked, raising an eyebrow. "I just had lunch," Jasmine replied simply, but her smile grew wider. That evening, as she sat in her apartment going through work emails, her phone buzzed with a message from Marcus. "Thank you for making my lunch break so memorable. Would you like to have dinner this weekend?" Jasmine looked at the message for a long moment, thinking about how her mother had always told her that love comes when you least expect it. Maybe this was one of those moments, an ordinary Thursday that turned out to be not so ordinary after all. She typed back yes and hit send, not knowing that this simple 3-letter word would change her life forever. The news of Jasmine dating a man in a wheelchair spread quickly through her family and social circle. Her mother, Gloria Taylor, was the first to voice her concerns during their weekly Sunday dinner. "Baby, are you sure about this?" Gloria asked while stirring her famous collard greens. "Taking care of someone with a disability is a big responsibility." She spoke softly, but her words carried weight. Jasmine put down her fork and looked directly at her mother. "Mama, Marcus doesn't need anyone to take care of him. He takes care of himself just fine. He runs his own business, drives his own car, and lives alone in a beautiful apartment downtown." Her younger sister Tanya chimed in from across the table. "But what about children? Have you thought about that?" The questions kept coming, not just from her family but from her friends too. Sandra, her closest friend at work, pulled her aside during lunch one day. "I'm just worried about you, girl," Sandra said, concern written across her face. "Dating is one thing, but what if it gets serious?" But Jasmine had already started to see the world differently through her dates with Marcus. Their first dinner date had been at an upscale restaurant where Marcus was a regular. She watched in amazement as he smoothly maneuvered his wheelchair through the space, greeted the staff by name, and handled everything with ease and grace. Over the next few weeks, they went on more dates. Marcus took her to an adaptive sports game where she saw wheelchair basketball players moving with incredible speed and skill. They visited art galleries, went to comedy shows, and spent hours talking over coffee. One evening, while they were enjoying ice cream in the park, Marcus opened up about his accident. "I was 12, he said, looking out at the setting sun. "My friend and I were climbing trees in his backyard. The branch broke, and I fell. The doctors said I would never walk again." Jasmine reached for his hand as he continued. "But you know what? That accident gave me something too. It taught me to be stronger than I ever thought I could be." Their relationship grew stronger with each passing day. Jasmine learned that Marcus's disability was just one part of who he was, not his defining feature. She fell in love with his quick wit, his kindness, and the way he could make her laugh even on her worst days. Marcus showed her his world, and it was far from the limited existence her family and friends had imagined. He had modified his car with hand controls and drove better than most people she knew. His apartment was thoughtfully designed but looked like any other modern home. He cooked dinner for her, surprising her with his culinary skills. "People often see the wheelchair first," Marcus told her one evening while making his special pasta sauce. "They don't see that I'm just a regular guy who happens to sit down all the time." Slowly, Jasmine's family began to change their minds too. It started when Marcus came to dinner and charmed everyone with his stories and humor. Even Gloria had to admit she had been wrong. "That young man has a good head on his shoulders," Gloria said after Marcus fixed her computer problems in minutes. "And the way he looks at you, baby, that's what matters." 3 months into dating, Jasmine realized something important. She wasn't dating a disabled man. She was dating Marcus, who was thoughtful, brilliant, and happened to use a wheelchair. The barriers that others saw began to fade away. One night, as they sat on Marcus's balcony watching the Atlanta skyline, he turned to her with serious eyes. "You know, when we first met, I was worried you might see me differently once you really got to know me." Jasmine squeezed his hand. "I do see you differently," she said. "I see you as the amazing man you are, not the man others assume you to be." That night, as Jasmine drove home, she thought about how love often comes in unexpected packages. Her mother had always told her that God works in mysterious ways, and maybe this was proof. In trying to help someone through a door, she had opened a new door in her own life, one that led to a love deeper and more real than anything she had known before. As spring turned to summer in Atlanta, Jasmine discovered there was much more to Marcus than she had initially realized. One evening, after their regular dinner date, Marcus invited her to his office downtown. When they arrived at a modern glass building, Jasmine's eyes widened as she saw the company name, Bennett Tech Solutions, in large letters across the entrance. "You own this?" she asked, looking at Marcus with surprise. Marcus smiled shyly. "I wanted to show you what I actually do. It's more than just computer work like I mentioned before." Inside, Jasmine found herself in a bustling tech company. The office was filled with developers, designers, and project managers, all working on various projects. Marcus led her through the space, where employees greeted him with obvious respect and warmth. "We create accessibility solutions," Marcus explained, showing her their latest projects on a large screen. "Apps that help disabled people navigate cities better, software that makes computers easier to use for people with different abilities, and technology that helps people like me live more independently." Jasmine watched in amazement as Marcus demonstrated their newest program, a voice-controlled smart home system designed specifically for people with physical disabilities. "This could change lives," she said softly. "That's the goal," Marcus replied, his eyes shining with passion. "When I was first injured, technology wasn't as advanced. I wanted to create things that would make life easier for others like me." As they toured the office, one of Marcus's employees, David, approached them. "Boss, we just got the numbers from last month's launch. The app has been downloaded over 100,000 times." Marcus beamed with pride. "See," he said to Jasmine, "people need these solutions. We're just getting started." Later that evening, in Marcus's apartment, Jasmine noticed things she hadn't paid attention to before. The way his kitchen was thoughtfully designed with lower countertops, how his bathroom had been modified for accessibility, and how everything was arranged to make his life easier while still looking stylish and modern. "You know," Marcus said, making coffee in his specially designed kitchen, "when I first started the company, everyone thought I was crazy. They said a disabled person couldn't run a tech company." Jasmine sat at his kitchen island, watching him work. "But you proved them wrong. Just like you proved your family wrong about us," he smiled. "Sometimes people's limitations are just in their minds." Their relationship had grown stronger over the past months. Jasmine found herself falling more deeply in love, not just with Marcus's determination and success, but with his kind heart and the way he saw the world. One weekend, Marcus invited Jasmine to a technology conference where he was the keynote speaker. She sat in the audience, filled with pride as she watched him wheel onto the stage and address hundreds of people. He spoke about innovation, accessibility, and the importance of designing technology for everyone. "Disability doesn't mean inability," he said to the crowd. "Sometimes, it just means finding a different way to do things." After the speech, several young people in wheelchairs came up to thank Marcus. They told him how his work had inspired them to pursue careers in technology. Jasmine watched from a distance, her heart swelling with emotion. That night, over dinner, Marcus turned serious. "You know, before I met you, I was focused only on work. I thought if I could be successful enough, people would see past the wheelchair." "And now?" Jasmine asked, reaching for his hand across the table. "Now I know that the right people don't need to see past anything. They just see you for who you are." He squeezed her hand. "You never once made me feel different or limited." As they drove home under the Atlanta stars, Jasmine thought about how far they'd come. Her mother now invited Marcus over for Sunday dinners regularly. Her friends had stopped asking worried questions and started asking when they'd get engaged instead. Love, Jasmine realized, wasn't about what a person could or couldn't do. It was about who they were in their heart, how they treated others, and the dreams they dared to chase. Marcus had shown her that limitations only existed if you allowed them to, and that true love went far beyond physical abilities or disabilities. It was in these moments that Jasmine knew this was just the beginning of their story. The day Marcus decided to propose to Jasmine started with a secret meeting with her parents. He wheeled into their cozy home on a quiet Sunday morning, while Jasmine was at her weekly yoga class, thinking he was at a business meeting. "Mr. and Mrs. Taylor," Marcus began, his hand slightly shaking in his lap. "I love your daughter more than anything in this world, and I want to spend the rest of my life with her." Gloria Taylor wiped a tear from her eye, remembering how wrong she had been about Marcus in the beginning. Jasmine's father, James, stood up and walked over to Marcus, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Son, you've proven yourself to be exactly the kind of man we always wanted for our baby girl," James said warmly. "You have our blessing." With their approval secured, Marcus put his plan into action. His company had just received major funding from a big tech investor, and he planned to use the celebration as cover for his surprise proposal. He arranged everything at Blue Waters, an upscale beachside restaurant where they had their third date. The evening arrived, and Jasmine dressed up in a beautiful blue dress, thinking they were just celebrating Marcus's business success. When they arrived at the restaurant, she noticed something different. The entire beachside patio was decorated with tiny white lights, and soft music played in the background. "This is quite fancy for a business dinner," Jasmine commented, looking around. "Where is everyone else?" Marcus smiled mysteriously. "The team will join us later," he said, though he knew this wasn't true. Their table overlooked the ocean, and the setting sun painted the sky in beautiful shades of orange and pink. Throughout dinner, Jasmine noticed Marcus seemed nervous, something unusual for him. He kept checking his phone and adjusting his tie. "Is everything okay?" she asked, concerned. "You seem distracted." "Everything is perfect," he assured her, reaching for her hand across the table. "Actually, I want to show you something on the beach. They've set up a special display for the celebration." Jasmine looked confused but agreed. The restaurant staff had laid out a wooden pathway on the sand, making it easy for Marcus's wheelchair to move along the beach. They stopped at a beautifully decorated arch covered in flowers and lights. "Jasmine," Marcus began, his voice soft but steady. "The day you helped me through that cafe door, you didn't just help me with a physical barrier. You began breaking down every wall I had built around my heart." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Jasmine's hands flew to her mouth as she realized what was happening. "These past months have been the happiest of my life," Marcus continued. "You never saw my disability as a limitation. You saw me for who I am, and you loved me completely." Tears began rolling down Jasmine's cheeks as Marcus opened the box, revealing a beautiful diamond ring. "I may not be able to get down on one knee," he said with a smile, "but I can promise you this: I will spend every day of my life loving you, supporting your dreams, and thanking God for bringing you into my life. Jasmine Taylor, will you marry me?" Through her tears, Jasmine managed to say yes. She leaned down to kiss Marcus as he slipped the ring onto her finger. Suddenly, cheers erupted from the restaurant patio. Their families and closest friends had been watching the whole time, hidden from view. Gloria was the first to reach them, hugging them both while crying happy tears. "My baby girl," she said, holding Jasmine's face in her hands. "You found yourself a good man." The rest of the evening turned into an impromptu engagement party. Marcus had arranged for their families and friends to be there, knowing how important they were to Jasmine. Even Sandra from work was there, now one of Marcus's biggest supporters. Later that night, as they sat together watching the waves under the moonlight, Jasmine looked at her ring sparkling in the darkness. "You know," she said, leaning her head on Marcus's shoulder, "when I helped you with that door, I never imagined I was opening the door to my own happiness." Marcus kissed her forehead gently. "Sometimes the best things in life come when we least expect them," he said. "And sometimes they come in packages that others might not understand, but are perfect for us." As they sat there, surrounded by love and acceptance, both knew that this was just the beginning of their beautiful journey together. Planning a wedding was something Jasmine had dreamed about since she was a little girl, but now she had a bigger vision: creating a celebration that would be perfect for both her and Marcus. The journey to their perfect wedding day began 6 months before the ceremony. Their first stop was the venue hunt. Traditional wedding venues posed unique challenges. Some had steps leading to the altar, others had narrow doorways, and a few weren't accessible at all. After visiting 7 different places, they found the Garden Palace, a beautiful modern venue with wide pathways, smooth floors, and an elevator to all levels. "This is it," Marcus said, easily moving his wheelchair around the spacious ballroom. "I can actually dance with you here." Jasmine's eyes lit up. "Dance with me?" Marcus grinned and pulled out his phone, playing their favorite song. He had been taking special wheelchair dance lessons in secret, and now he showed her how he could spin and move gracefully with her. Jasmine laughed with joy as they danced in the empty ballroom, their love echoing off the walls. The wedding planning brought their families even closer together. Gloria and Marcus's mother, Patricia, became a dynamic duo, coordinating everything from flowers to food. They insisted on blending both families' traditions into the celebration. "We're not just planning a wedding," Patricia said during one of their planning meetings. "We're creating a statement about love having no boundaries." The dress shopping was an emotional day. Jasmine wanted something that would look beautiful while dancing with Marcus. She finally found a stunning gown with a skirt that would flow perfectly during their wheelchair dance. When she tried it on, both mothers cried. "Baby, you look like an angel," Gloria whispered, adjusting the veil. Marcus threw himself into making sure every detail was accessible yet elegant. He worked with the venue to install temporary ramps that looked like beautiful architectural features. The dance floor was specially treated to be smooth for his wheelchair, but safe for walking guests. Even the cake table was designed at a height where he could help cut their wedding cake with ease. Their wedding invitations included a note explaining that this would be an accessible celebration, encouraging other guests with disabilities to attend without worry. Soon, RSVPs came back with thankful messages from relatives and friends who often felt left out of such events. One afternoon, while they were tasting wedding cakes, Marcus looked troubled. "What's wrong?" Jasmine asked, noticing his expression. "I just want everything to be perfect for you," he said softly. "I know this isn't the traditional wedding you might have imagined." Jasmine took his hand. "This is better than anything I could have imagined. We're not just having a wedding, We're showing people what love really looks like. The wedding party had its own beautiful story. Marcus's best man was David from his company, who had become a close friend. Jasmine's sister Tanya was her maid of honor, and she had worked hard to make sure all the bridesmaid activities were accessible for everyone. As the big day approached, they faced one final challenge: the first dance. They practiced for weeks with a professional instructor who specialized in wheelchair dancing. Marcus was determined to give Jasmine a magical moment. "Trust me," he would say during their practice sessions, "I'm going to sweep you off your feet." The night before their wedding, both families gathered for the rehearsal dinner. Looking around the room, Jasmine saw how their love had changed not just their lives, but everyone around them. Her father, once worried about his daughter's choice, was now teaching Marcus's younger cousin how to tie a bow tie. Gloria and Patricia were sharing family recipes, planning future holiday meals together. That night, as Jasmine lay in bed in her childhood room for the last time as a single woman, she thought about their journey. From that first meeting at the cafe door to tomorrow's wedding, every moment had taught her something about love, acceptance, and breaking down barriers. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Tomorrow, I get to marry my angel. I can't wait to show the world how love rolls." Jasmine smiled at his sweet message, knowing that tomorrow would be the beginning of their greatest adventure yet. Their wedding wouldn't just be a ceremony. It would be a celebration of love that knows no limitations. 6 months into their marriage, life had fallen into a beautiful rhythm for Jasmine and Marcus. They had moved into a spacious apartment in downtown Atlanta, combining their lives in a home that was both accessible and stylish. Every evening, they enjoyed a tradition of sharing cocktails on their wide balcony, watching the sun set over the city's skyline. One particular Friday evening seemed like any other. Jasmine had just returned from work, changing into comfortable clothes while Marcus made their favorite drinks: a strawberry mojito for her and a non-alcoholic cocktail for himself. "How was your day?" Jasmine asked, settling into her favorite chair on the balcony. The early summer breeze played with her hair as she took a sip of her drink. Marcus seemed different tonight. His hands were slightly shaking as he adjusted his wheelchair, and he kept checking his phone. Jasmine noticed he had dressed up a bit more than usual for their regular evening routine. "Actually," Marcus began, his voice slightly trembling, "there's something I need to tell you. I've been keeping a secret for the past few months." Jasmine's heart skipped a beat. In their relationship, they had always been completely honest with each other. She put down her cocktail and reached for his hand. "What is it, baby? You can tell me anything." Marcus took a deep breath. "Remember Dr. Sarah Chen, the neurologist I mentioned meeting at a tech conference last year?" Jasmine nodded, remembering the conversation. "Well, for the past 8 months, I've been part of her research program," Marcus continued. "She's been developing a new treatment that combines stem cell therapy with advanced robotics. It's experimental, but," he paused, his eyes filling with tears, "it's showing promising results for people with spinal cord injuries like mine." Jasmine's hand flew to her mouth. "Marcus, are you saying?" He pulled out his tablet and showed her videos from his therapy sessions. In them, Marcus was connected to specialized equipment, and with assistance, his legs were moving slightly. "The treatment isn't a cure," he explained quickly, not wanting to give false hope. "But Dr. Chen believes that with continued therapy, I might regain some movement in my legs. Maybe even enough to stand for short periods with support." Tears started rolling down Jasmine's cheeks. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Marcus squeezed her hand. "I didn't want to get your hopes up. There were so many failed attempts before any progress. I needed to be sure there was real hope before sharing it with you." He showed her more documentation, medical reports, therapy schedules, and research papers. Dr. Chen's team had been working with 20 patients, and 15 of them had shown varying degrees of improvement. "The therapy sessions are why I've been having those early morning business meetings twice a week," he admitted. "I wanted to wait until we had concrete results before telling you." Jasmine stood up and moved to embrace her husband, careful not to spill their drinks. "You didn't have to go through this alone," she whispered. "I wasn't alone," Marcus said softly. "Every time things got tough, I thought of you. You gave me the strength to keep trying, even when it seemed impossible." He pulled out one final piece of paper, a schedule for the next phase of treatment. "It's going to be intense," he explained. 5 days a week of therapy for the next 6 months. I'll need to cut back on work, and he hesitated. I'll need your help. Without hesitation, Jasmine knelt beside his wheelchair. Whatever you need, I'm here. We're in this together. Marcus smiled through his tears. Dr. Chen says the next 6 months are crucial. She can't promise miracles, but we've already seen miracles. Jasmine interrupted. Look at us. Look at our love. This is just another part of our journey. They spent the rest of the evening on the balcony, the cocktails forgotten, planning for the months ahead. Jasmine insisted on attending future therapy sessions, and Marcus shared all the research he had been studying. As the city lights began twinkling around them, Marcus looked at his wife with pure love. You know, when I first started this treatment, I was scared to hope. But you taught me that hope is never wasted, even if things don't work out exactly as planned. Jasmine kissed him softly. Tomorrow is a new day, and we'll face it together, just like we always have. That night, their usual cocktail hour had become something more, a moment of truth, hope, and renewed commitment to their journey together. The next year became a testament to Jasmine and Marcus's love and determination. Every morning, they would wake up at 5:30 a.m. to prepare for Marcus's therapy sessions at the Atlanta Medical Research Center. Jasmine had rearranged her work schedule to start later in the day, allowing her to be with Marcus during his morning treatments. Dr. Sarah Chen's facility was impressive, filled with cutting-edge equipment and staffed by dedicated professionals. On their first day of intensive therapy, she explained the process to them both. The treatment combines 3 approaches, Dr. Chen said, showing them the equipment. We use stem cell therapy to help repair damaged nerve tissue, robotic assistance to retrain muscle movements, and traditional physical therapy to build strength. Marcus's schedule was grueling. 3 hours every morning were spent in different types of therapy. Some days were painful, others frustrating, but Jasmine never left his side. You're doing amazing, baby, she would say on the tough days, wiping sweat from his forehead. Take it one day at a time. The first breakthrough came 2 months into the treatment. During a session with the robotic assistance equipment, Marcus's right toe moved slightly, on his own. A whole room erupted in celebration. Dr. Chen quickly recorded the movement, while Jasmine cried happy tears. It's small, Marcus said, looking at his toe in wonder, but it's something. Small steps lead to big victories, Dr. Chen reminded them with a smile. The news of Marcus's progress spread through both families. Gloria and Patricia took turns preparing healthy meals for them, making sure they had proper nutrition during this challenging time. James, Jasmine's father, even built a small gym in their apartment's spare room so Marcus could do extra exercises at home. Not every day brought success. There were setbacks and disappointments. Some weeks showed no progress at all, and Marcus would grow frustrated and discouraged. One particularly tough evening, after a day of failed attempts, Marcus broke down. Maybe I'm fooling myself, he said, staring out their balcony window. Maybe I should accept things as they are. Jasmine wheeled his chair around to face her. Remember what you told me when we first met? That I'm making your mind run marathons when your legs couldn't. Well, now it's time to let your heart run this marathon. We're not giving up. Her words renewed his determination. The next day, they were back at therapy, working harder than ever. Marcus's tech company had been understanding, allowing him to work remotely and adjust his schedule around treatments. His employees, inspired by his dedication, even organized a schedule to help with office tasks. 6 months into the treatment, Marcus could move both feet slightly. By 8 months, he could feel sensation in his thighs. Each small victory was celebrated like a major triumph. Dr. Chen's team documented everything, using Marcus's progress as part of their research. Your case is proving that determination and support are as important as medical treatment, she told them. The most emotional moment came 9 months into therapy. With the help of parallel bars and leg braces, Marcus was able to bear weight on his legs for the first time in years. Jasmine recorded the moment on her phone, her hands shaking with excitement. I'm standing, Marcus whispered, tears streaming down his face. Jasmine, I'm standing. The video quickly became a treasured possession, shared with family and friends who had supported their journey. Even Sandra from Jasmine's office cried when she saw it. Throughout the year, their love grew stronger. Every challenge, every small victory, every moment of frustration or joy brought them closer together. Their evening cocktail hours became precious times to reflect on each day's progress and support each other. One evening, as they sat on their balcony after a particularly good therapy session, Marcus looked at Jasmine with deep love in his eyes. "You know what the best therapy has been?" he asked. "What's that?" "Your love," he said simply. "It's been better than any medicine." Jasmine smiled and took his hand. "We're not at the finish line yet," she said. "No," Marcus agreed, squeezing her hand. "But we're getting there, one step at a time, and as long as we're together, every step is worth it." As the sun set over Atlanta, they sat together, holding hands and dreaming of the future. The journey was far from over, but they had already proven that with love, faith, and determination, anything was possible. Their first wedding anniversary arrived on a perfect spring day in Atlanta. Marcus had spent weeks secretly planning a special celebration with help from both families. He chose the same beachside restaurant where he had proposed, but this time he had an even bigger surprise in store. The restaurant's owner had worked with Marcus to ensure everything was perfect. A private area was set up on the patio, decorated with flowers and soft lights. Their families and closest friends gathered early, hiding behind a partition just as they had done during the proposal a year ago. Jasmine arrived thinking it was just an anniversary dinner. She wore a beautiful red dress, her favorite color, and Marcus had dressed in a matching tie. As they were escorted to their table, she noticed the special decorations. "This feels familiar," she said with a smile, remembering their engagement night. Marcus grinned mysteriously. "The night's full of surprises, my love." They ordered their drinks, the same cocktails they always shared on their balcony. As they waited, Marcus began playing a video on the large screen that had been set up nearby. It was a montage of their journey together, their wedding, therapy sessions, small victories, and countless moments of love and support. "This year has been the most challenging and beautiful of my life," Marcus said, taking Jasmine's hand. "And I have something to show you." He pressed a button on his wheelchair, and two physical therapists emerged from behind the partition. They brought with them the specially designed walker that Marcus had been practicing with in secret extra therapy sessions. Jasmine's eyes widened as she realized what was about to happen. The therapists positioned themselves on either side of Marcus's wheelchair, and with their help, he began to move. Slowly, carefully, Marcus rose from his wheelchair. Using the walker and leg braces, with the therapist spotting him, he took one small step, then another. Tears streamed down Jasmine's face as she watched her husband walk 3 steps toward her. "Oh my God," she whispered, her hands covering her mouth. But Marcus wasn't done with surprises. Once he was steady on his feet, he spoke again, his voice thick with emotion. "Jasmine, my love, remember how you helped me through a door that first day? Well, you didn't just help me through a physical door, you opened the door to miracles." He nodded to someone behind her, and Gloria stepped forward, holding something in her arms. It was a tiny baby outfit with the words, "Coming soon," written on it. Jasmine looked confused for a moment, then her eyes grew wide with understanding. "Last week's doctor appointment wasn't just a regular checkup," Marcus explained, still standing with support. "We're pregnant, my love. The doctors confirmed it. Despite what they said about my injury possibly preventing us from having children, God had other plans." The partition was removed, revealing their families and friends, all holding similar baby outfits and signs reading, "Baby Bennett coming soon." Everyone was crying and smiling at the same time. Jasmine stood up, walking to Marcus and carefully embracing him as he stood there. "How?" she whispered. They said, "Dr. Chen says the stem cell therapy didn't just help with mobility," Marcus explained. "It helped restore other functions too. The doctors say everything looks perfect. We're going to be parents." Their families surrounded them, offering congratulations and support. Gloria and Patricia were already discussing nursery designs, while James proudly announced he would build the crib himself. As they celebrated, Marcus was able to stand for almost 10 minutes, his longest time yet. When he finally had to return to his wheelchair, there was no sadness in it. Every small step was a victory, and now they had an even bigger blessing to celebrate. Later that evening, as they shared their traditional cocktail, non-alcoholic for Jasmine now, Marcus looked at his wife with pure joy. "You know what Dr. Chen said today?" he asked. "She said that love is the most powerful medicine. She's using our case to prove that emotional support and determination can enhance physical recovery. Jasmine placed her hand on her stomach, still amazed at their miracle. Our story isn't just about recovery anymore, she said softly. It's about new beginnings. Marcus covered her hand with his. And that's the ultimate gift. Our love created new life, new hope, new possibilities. Who knows what other miracles are waiting for us? As the sun set on their anniversary celebration, Jasmine and Marcus knew their journey was far from over. But with love, faith, and each other, they were ready for whatever adventures lay ahead. Their story had become more than just a tale of overcoming disabilities. It was proof that when love leads the way, miracles follow.